Look, that interest started in my final year at UQ. I was one of the first group of students to undertake a rotation outside Brisbane. So back in the 1970s, all student rotations in the disciplines happened within the Brisbane hospitals, and a group was given the opportunity to go to Rockhampton to do their surgical rotation in final year. So I was part of that first group, and that was my first introduction to rural medicine, and that's what stimulated my interest and has really guided the rest of my career. Not through School of Medicine. Plenty of family members who've been through UQ, but I was the first one to go through School of Medicine, yes. I think it's been the small group that I was with, particularly in my clinical years, that back in those days it was a very large group of students, I think about 220, 240 in the year group. But you became very close to those who were near to you in the alphabet and were the ones who you shared those clinical experiences with, whether it was within Brisbane or elsewhere. And I still maintain contact with some of that small group that I was with. So even though it was a very large year, you were part of a smaller and more intimate family that's been part of influencing my career for many years after that. Well, I'll come back to that Rockhampton experience. It was a fantastic experience as a student to be working in a smaller place with a very supportive group of medical, nursing and allied health staff. That as a student, it was an experience like nothing I had experienced in the relative anonymity of the big city hospitals. And because that was so good, then I applied to undertake my internship at Rockhampton Hospital, and once again that was a great experience as an intern. So had it not been for that opportunity that UQ gave me to go to a regional hospital, I suspect my career might have gone in a totally different direction, and I have absolutely no regrets as to how that unfolded. It's been a great journey the whole way, so it's really got to be a thank you to UQ for being quite innovative as it was at that time, to give students an opportunity to do their training, part of their training outside Brisbane. Look, it's a bit hard to pin down any one particular one. I think that one of the other opportunities I had was to complete a science degree during my medical degree. So I actually took 7 years to complete my medical degree. But after the 3 preclinical years, then there was an opportunity to do a research year to complete a science degree. And that opened up other areas of university learning and teaching and research that I had not experienced prior to that date. And some great teachers, some people who were very innovative in their thinking, were strongly supportive of me as a fairly young student at that time. And that's also guided part of my career, because subsequent to completing my medical degree, I've done a certain amount of research in higher degrees and stuff that I do with ACRIM as well. So that was stimulated by the opportunity within the medical degree to complete a broadly related area in science, so the two are complementary in some way. So it's been a well-rounded experience that hasn't just been all about medicine. So other aspects of what I've done have been shaped by those opportunities. And likewise, some of the great clinical teachers that I had that have since retired or passed on, it was people that I met along that pathway that opened up my eyes to other opportunities that I would otherwise not have considered at all. And I think that's been one of the great things that's also influenced my career, is that it's not all about having an absolute direction that you want things to go from the word go, that keeping your mind open, and you will meet inspirational people, there will be great opportunities, and then that takes your career in a quite different direction. And once again, absolutely no regrets the way those things have unfolded. It's been a grab some opportunities that UQ put out there for me, and I think that still exists today. So coming back to my experiences as a student and then an intern in Rockhampton, following on from that, I was on a bonded scholarship with the Queensland government at that time. And because I had enjoyed Rockhampton so much, then I was keen to continue my career in a rural area, and I was sent to Innisfail for 2 years after that. And once again, working in that smaller rural environment was a wonderful thing in terms of my own personal development, and also helped guide my professional career beyond that. And at a personal level, I met my wife when I was working in the small hospital of Innisfail, once again in the early 1980s. And I think that whole thing about meet, marry, multiply and mortgage is very true to me. Marrying someone who shared that same interest in rural areas, but had come to it from a quite different direction, and it's made for a very happy personal life as well as a very happy professional life. So I think, had those opportunities not been there in my final year as a student, I quite possibly would not have followed a rural career. So I think that I can trace that whole personal and professional development and satisfaction back to that first opportunity and introduction I had to something that had never been on my radar until some very forward-thinking and innovative people at UQ had put that opportunity out there for me. Well, it was that experience of Rockhampton, of Innisfail, that led me to that, and subsequent to that, my entire career has been based around working in rural regional areas. I've worked in every state and territory of Australia, working or teaching or doing research. It's led me to be working in rural Canada, where I lived and worked for 2 years, once again in a similar rural area. So all those things have been part of what's progressively shaped my career, of opportunities that have come up. And I think that satisfaction of working in rural medicine was something that I would not have appreciated had I not had opportunities offered to me, and had I not taken up those opportunities and made the most of those opportunities when they came up. And absolutely, I would encourage other students to seize those opportunities. I can only speak from my own personal experience, but it's been incredibly satisfying personally and professionally, and I could not think of anything that I would rather have done. There are absolutely no regrets for the way that has unfolded. My advice would be that there are some wonderful practitioners out there, not just medical practitioners, but wonderful people who've had successful and very satisfying careers. So those inspirational people that you meet along your pathway as a student are things to be welcomed, opportunities to be grabbed. And the wonderful thing about medicine, wherever it is, that you can generally find a niche that suits your particular interests and your particular personalities. And I think rural medicine opens up perhaps a wider range of opportunities personally and professionally than can happen in the relatively closed environment of the big city medical practice, big hospitals. So that broad church in which we practice, the wide scope of practice that you can follow, the opportunities to have qualifications that can lead to working in many different places in Australia and internationally. I'm living proof of how satisfying that sort of thing could be. So I'd encourage people to keep that open mind, keep the options open, and grab those opportunities that will inevitably come along their way.